Welcome in an all-new betting preview for this week's AT&T Byron Nelson. I'm Rick Gaiman, that right there, Andy Lack, and we are going to take you through the betting board, some matchups. We'll talk one and done. Andy, hello. Good day to you.
Good morning. Yeah, we are getting into really fun time of the golf season right now. Obviously, this week losing a bit of its luster with the Jordan Spieth withdrawal, but still plenty of money to be made on the board this week at TPC Craig Ranch, the pride of Dallas.
Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned it, so let's just jump right in here. This betting board has gotten a bit of a shakeup over the course of the last 24 hours or so. This is the odds checker grid, so you can see a bunch of different sports books and the odds that are being hung at each one of them. Find the best prices that are available to you and go from there. Well, Jordan Spieth, Andy, was the second shortest odds in this field behind Scottie Scheffler. He withdrew on Monday afternoon. Before we jump into the ramifications around the odds board, I didn't love the statement. It seemed not great, and his chances, at least me reading between the lines, his chances of playing the PGA are certainly in jeopardy.
Absolutely. And I mean, we knew something was up when we talked about him a fair amount in our Quail Hollow Wells Fargo preview. He was a very popular option that week. A lot of people bet him. Form looked amazing. And then he has this kind of bizarre, a lot of it did kind of happen on one hole, but still very concerning, terrible ball striking week at the Wells Fargo, where he misses the cut pretty badly. And we're sitting here ahead of Byron Nelson saying, okay, probably just a blip in the radar. We get Jordan Spieth back in Texas. This is a golf course that he's had tremendous success at before. He's had tremendous success in the state of Texas just in general. 10-1 on the odds board, definitely an appealing option in DraftKings. And then we get this statement that, hey, maybe something is going on. Maybe something did linger again or catch, maybe something got injured at Quail Hollow, or maybe something that had been lingering him and bothering for quite some time kind of creeped up again. So I would say that, yeah, I'm with you. If he is skipping this event, the players that are playing the week before a major championship are doing it for a specific reason. It's because they like that as part of their prep. They feel like if they can get 4 competitive rounds in the week before, that puts them in a situation where their game is going to peak in the right way a week later at the major championship. And Jordan Spieth generally likes to play the week before in these Texas events. Pretty concerned. I would say that I'm 50-50 at best in terms of whether we see him in Rochester in a week.
He describes it as a week-to-week injury, which is not great considering we are a week away from the PGA Championship. I would prefer if he was describing it as a day-to-day injury, but I guess time will tell. So with Jordan Spieth's WD, odds getting shorter for guys like Tyrrell Hatton, Jason Day, Tom Kim, and then a little bit of squeeze on Scottie Scheffler, who went from about 4-1 to 3.5-1. Plus 375, the best number you can get available on the grid right now. So it is Scottie in a tier of his own, followed up by Tyrrell Hatton, Jason Day, Tom Kim. Those are the only 4 golfers on the grid shorter than 20-1.
Yeah, and this odds board is obviously getting affected by the Spieth news. Hopefully you were able to pounce early on Monday morning and get some of the best of the numbers on these guys. I like Tyrrell Hatton a fair amount this week. Like, I really do like the way that he's playing golf right now. He has stepped up in some of the biggest events of the year. I mean, we look at a 6th place in Phoenix, back-to-back top 5s at the Players Championship and the Arnold Palmer Invitational, another top 5 at the Wells Fargo. Those are 4 elevated events that Tyrrell Hatton has top 6s in. I don't know how many more players on the PGA Tour can say that they have 4 top 6s in elevated events this season. Now we put Tyrrell Hatton in a field where he is arguably the second best player in the entire field. He's certainly playing like the second best player in the entire field. I don't even think that, I mean, I got him at 16-1 before the Spieth news came out. The best number on the odds checker grid you see is 14. I don't even think that's a terrible number on a player like Tyrrell Hatton, who is putting the ball great, is hitting the ball great. We know that he sometimes does his best work in more difficult scoring conditions, but we've still seen him log top fives at courses like Detroit Golf Club before. I know that his putter can get hot and he can make enough birdies to keep up in this type of event. So probably for me, like if you're asking me who's my champion right now as it stands, I'm probably picking Tyrrell Hatton.
I tend to agree with you. Gained 11 strokes from tee to green last week at Quail Hollow. That's his best performance in basically 2 years, but it is not super uncharacteristic. You mentioned the good results at those elevated events, and a lot of them were driven by great ball striking. A lot of them were driven by great tee to green play, the ability to gain a couple of strokes with the putter. And when you kind of look at this board, do you have more confidence in Tyrrell Hatton at 14-1? Like Jason Day, okay, I like the trajectory. Is he going to win at 17-1? Tom Kim, I actually think, is playing sneaky well. He's at 17-1, but I agree. Of these four, all things considered, value-wise, assigning a number to it and looking at the trends in the win equity, feels like Hatton.
Where do you stand on the KH Lee three-peat?
Probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I also would have told you probably wouldn't have won in 2021. He probably wouldn't have won in 2022. I think the good news is that if you want to back KH Lee going for a historic third consecutive win here at the AT&T Byron Nelson, I mean, he has played himself into form. He's playing better golf as of right now. He's coming off the T8 at the Wells Fargo Championship. But if you find me clicking KH Lee at 25-1, going for his third straight win at this golf course in this field, getting the run from gaining 7 strokes putting last week, like something has gone horribly wrong if I'm clicking that.
I agree with you. What is it?
Last year he was like 100-1, by the way.
Right. And the first year, I don't know what his betting price was. I know he's like 6,900 on DraftKings the first year that he won. So I'm with you. I'm out on the KH Lee three-peat. Where do we stand on, what's the state of the union on Hideki these days?
No idea. So my understanding is that while he withdrew from the Wells Fargo, he went back to Japan to get additional treatment on the neck. This has been lingering for a year, 18 months, whatever. I don't know anymore, right? Like getting treatment on an injury might be a good thing. Requiring treatment on an injury might be a bad thing. Right. Like, I don't know if he's like, oh yeah, I went to see the best guy in the world. He's got me fixed up. I got 4 rounds in me. No worries there. Like, I don't know if that was the outcome, and we're not going to know. Looking at this golf course, he's had a lot of great success around it. T39, T3. He, when healthy and when on, great ball striker. He's been improved with the flat stick. I think the risk is entirely based on his health. And the week before a major championship, where you would expect him to protect it a little bit more than normal, I will probably not get there. But if Hideki's like T5 on Sunday night, I wouldn't be surprised. I just don't think I'm going to have a piece of it.
Yeah, I think he's probably, for me, a more appealing option in a one and done format than he is in an outright format. And we'll talk about that as we go a little bit farther on and get to the one and done section of this show. But I agree. I think that he is probably one of the toughest players to gauge on a week to week basis, just because the floor is so low. The floor with Hideki on any given week is that he withdraws after 3 holes. Yeah. And of course, you see those ceiling performances out of him as well. I think the T3 at this event last year came with a crazy low Sunday, which is exactly what he did at the US Open as well. So again, lukewarm on Hideki from an outright standpoint. I think Tyrrell Hatton for me is the guy at the top. And then if you're asking me the next guy that I have some interest in as we move in a little bit farther is what do you think about Adam Scott performance at the Wells Fargo and how that could potentially translate to further success for him?
In general, I believe that having your, 52-week high of approach play,
yeah,
which is basically what he had, is unsustainable. I also think having your best putting performance since August of 2022 at the same time is generally unsustainable. You know, the type of golf that we have seen from Adam Scott leading into this event was a guy who really struggled with the irons, who was kind of lukewarm with the putter, and he was likely going to drive it well. I see two different areas of red flag that kind of speak to a little bit of a regression coming for Adam Scott. So I am definitely more bearish on him than I think a lot of others will be.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I look at the back-to-back top fives that he put together at the end of August and think, okay, maybe there's a chance he's a form player where, you know, if you get him going on the right foot, he can kind of sustain it for a multi-week stretch. But you're right. He's been a complete mixed bag this season. And, you know, essentially as he's gotten into his, you know, the last couple of years since he won Riviera, which now I think that was like right before COVID.
Yeah.
He's been one of the more volatile golfers, one of the more difficult to predict on a week to week basis. Which kind of gets us now starting to talk about this middle tier of guys, which are certainly not at the level of your guys closer to the top like Hideki and Hatton, but I think there's some interesting names in here as we get into the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, so pretty significant drop off here. So you get, you know, Adam Scott 36 is the best number available on the grid. Siwoo Kim at 40, Minwoo Lee at 45, and then some more interesting names. You know, Tom Hoagie's 50-1. Adam Hadwin 55. I have only bet Terrell to this point, so I'm looking to fill out the card with something, particularly something probably here. So let's find something for me.
Yeah, two names I'll throw out that are on the screen right now that I really like. Stefan Jaeger first. This is a guy that we know that he can score. We know that he can make birdies in bunches. We know that he can keep up in easy scoring conditions. And when he came onto the PGA Tour, this was really like a Mackenzie Hughes-esque stat profile where he was getting a lot done with the short game and the putter. But then you start to look at more recently, really kind of starting to come into his own as a ball striker. Honestly, I mean, I really like the upside that I'm seeing out of him on approach. It seems like the off the tee, he started to figure out last week at the Wells Fargo, just really solid tee to green week in general from Jaeger. He is a type of player at 60-1 that, you know, has the talent to win in a field like this. And then if we're talking upside as well, Brandon Wu is another guy that once you start getting down here into the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there are not many guys that you can definitively say, oh, this guy has had high-end contending performances. And Brandon Wu has done that. You see the T2 at Pebble Beach, the third at the Mexico Open. He's top 5 at the Mexico Open the previous year. By the way, Mexico, Vidanta Vidarta, another golf course, pretty fairly wide open off the tee. Biggest defense of the golf course is the length, a lot of long irons, you know, very relatively easy scoring conditions. So Wu and Jaeger would be kind of the two targets for me in that 50 to 100 range.
Brandon Wu caught my attention. Dylan Wu.
Yeah.
Holds my attention, right? I mean, the T15 in Mexico, the T21 at the Wells Fargo Championship. He's good on approach. He gets hot with the putter. Talking about somebody who's finding his stride on the PGA Tour. Dylan Wu certainly fits that category, and I'm pretty sure you can get him as long as 130-1.
Yeah.
So it's pretty deep. The other one that I would consider, and as we enter, this is the part of the board I'm heading towards now, kind of getting outside the 50s with Bezadenhout as short as 50, as long as 70. That's kind of interesting. But Eric Cole, you know, you talked about those the Brandon Wu-esque popping ability, right? Go find me a runner-up, go find me a third every now and then. Cole is as short as 60, as long as 80, and he does the two things that I care about most this week, which is the ability to find a hot putter, and he stripes it well on his second shot. The T5 in Mexico, the runner-up at the Honda. Let's go. Give me one of those 5 strokes gained putting weeks combined with his standard good ball striking weeks and get him in the mix again. This is a dude who's won, like, I'm careful to say this. I know they're mini tour events, but he's won like 50 mini tour events, right? Like when he is playing to win, like when he's in it, he knows that feeling, right? Like he almost took down Honda and stole that thing. I've been pretty impressed with him all year long.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Eric Cole as well this week. He is already on my betting card. He was one of the first clicks that I made on Monday morning. You mentioned it. You look at that upside that he has, because once you're getting down here and we're talking about the board from an outright perspective, every single one of these players in this field above 50 to 1 has flaws, right? You're never going to find a bulletproof case for these guys. So you're really trying to look at, okay, what is their ceiling, right? We don't really care about their floor from an outright perspective, but what is their ceiling? So you're looking for guys that have put together top fives before. Eric Cole did it again in Mexico. Like we said, a somewhat similar golf course from a skill set standpoint to what we're going to be faced with this week. I'll throw out one or two more for you as well as we get deeper. Nate Lashley is a guy where I just really like the way that he's playing. He's having a quietly really strong season. This is a guy that has won at Detroit Golf Club before. Another wide open, driver heavy bent grass birdie fest. Look at those iron numbers from the Wells Fargo. I mean, he's seemed to really found something on approach. He's gained over 5 strokes on approach in 4 or 5 straight starts now. So I think Lashley, I mean, I got him at 150 to 1 on Monday morning. That would probably be my favorite long shot.
He is, yeah, still as short as 80, as long as 100 around the industry. So he's still available in triple digits if you can find it. I'm just kind of going through some of the deeper guys here, but I think as far as card construction goes, Andy, it feels like, this week, especially compared to some of the previous weeks that we've had, I'll certainly have more guys 60 to 1 and longer, maybe even 100 to 1 or longer, when I've done a pretty focused job of staying near the top of the leaderboard the first couple of months of the year.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it's Hatton and then a bunch of bombs, right? I mean, I think that's a fair construction this week. I think that, you know, Scotty is pretty I don't want to say anyone's unbettable at this price, but you have a ROM in Mexico emerging where, is Scotty probably going to be there when it's all said and done? Yes. But do you like him enough that you are going to invest that heavily in a golfer that isn't going to provide you that much of a payoff whatsoever? So, you're better. I mean, you're getting the same payoff if you think the Sixers are going to beat the Celtics tonight, right? So, I mean, that's what we're dealing with in the Scotty realm. So I agree. My card construction is quite similar this week as well.
Here's a few matchups that are available right now. I want to point out a couple of things. Tom Kim is not fooling the odds makers. So minus 134 to KH Lee's plus 110. Tom Kim sneakily playing better golf, and it's not going unseen here at Bet365. But then I see a couple of these guys, Andy. I've not been particularly impressed with the way that either Davis Riley or Taylor Montgomery have played as of late, but I certainly think the Riley side of that is more sustainable.
I like the Riley side as well. Major concerns about Taylor Montgomery's ball striking, which I identified way back in the day when everyone said, when everyone, when everyone said that he was the greatest thing since sliced bread, I said, well, look at how he's getting it done. It's a lot dependent on the dude being the best putter in the world. So we saw it, obviously, the putter come back down to earth. The ball striking hasn't really improved with him. Davis Riley coming off a semi-recent win at the Zurich. We know that was a team event. I still like the way that he's playing golf right now. I would give Riley the edge in that matchup as well. I'd probably also take Hatton over Jason Day for what it's worth at something like minus 120.
Yes, that is correct. I'm also way more bullish on Christian Bezuidenhout
and Scott Stallings.
Yeah, and then I've really ever been, right? I love that combination of approach and putting. He's playing a little bit better now. Scott Stallings has been bad. He's minus 120 to Bezuidenhout's even money. So that's where you'd find me on that side of things. Which I think
yeah. I like that as well.
Okay. We will continue this conversation. We will dive into the fabulous world of one and done and take a quick break before we do that. So first, we're going to hear a word about Andy's podcast. Andy Lack is one of the nerdiest golf guys that I know, and I mean that as an absolute compliment. His knowledge of course architecture allows him to create some of the most actionable course previews available, and he offers up pure expertise on his own podcast, the Inside Golf Podcast. Twice a week, he offers course breakdowns, DFS, and betting strategy for every PGA Tour event, and he expands the universe by bringing on entertaining and knowledgeable guests who can offer a different viewpoint of the game that we love. Follow Inside Golf Pod on Twitter and download Inside Golf wherever you download podcasts. And we're back. Andy, the props are not out on PrizePicks yet, but you did give us a little bit of some basketball references earlier, and I'm seeing quite a few. And when I say quite a few, like literally hundreds. There is a line on dunks tonight. You think there's an edge? You think there's an edge in dunks?
I mean, if you're diving into some of the advanced analytics, post up possessions and things of that nature, sure. I don't know that I will have enough confidence for that to get my money. I think I'll probably stick with the over-unders on stuff like points, rebounds, and assists, more traditional stats. But I got to say, I'm curious about, because I know you're a big Philly guy. This feels like a Boston statement game for me, coming off a heartbreaking loss. And then I do think that this is absolutely a series that can go 7, but Harden's the X factor, in my opinion. I mean, Harden, you get that performance that you got from Harden in their most previous game, and you're hopefully looking at a guy, if he can find a way to repeat something like that. Now you're in a situation where it's best of 3, and absolutely anything can happen in a best of 3.
Yeah, I unfortunately think the Sixers are probably going to get waxed tonight. The Celtics are, I mean, they are clearly the better team. As someone who is not a basketball guy, I watch these games and I see the ball movement, I see the effort, I see the quality possessions, and I'm like, Sixers are screwed here, right? Like, I mean, the Celtics are getting a lot of anything that they want, and they just so happen to be running into the league's MVP and Joel Embiid and a couple of massive throwback games from James Harden that have even gotten us to 2-2 right now. Right. So I worry about the sustainability of that, but I think you're right. Like from a props perspective, like Harden's points line is 21.5, which he's either going to score 7 or 47. Right. This will not be close to 21.5. It will be 0 or 100.
Right. And I mean, you nailed it too. There is a talent discrepancy in this series. I mean, the Celtics are just a much deeper basketball team. I mean, there isn't a team left in the playoffs that really has a guy like Malcolm Brogdon coming off the bench, right? And the combination of Al Horford in there, I just think their role players are a lot stronger than Philly. So yeah, I think like really fun to think about, okay, is this a James Harden ceiling performance night? Is this a Joel Embiid's ceiling performance night? Maybe it's a Jason Tatum ceiling performance night, but yeah, fun basketball to keep us occupied until PrizePicks gives us something to work for. Maybe hopefully later in the week for this tournament. And I'm sure they'll have a ton of stuff for Okel.
I imagine, yeah. So get all locked and loaded. The code you're looking for is Rick. That'll get you a deposit bonus, $100, and there is a link in the description for one and done. Andy, it's pretty interesting, right? We've got Scotty Scheffler, who I can't imagine anybody is going to use here, and I imagine a lot of people have already used. It is a smaller purse. I can already tell you I've peeked at the site-wide ownership projections, and it is shaping up to be a KH Lee week. Like what are we doing in terms of playing our position and depending on the size of our one and done here?
Well, I think if you have Hatton available, that's a good option. Although I do think that he'll be pretty popular, right? You have to imagine Hatton will be pretty popular now as the second best player on the odds board that's still available for a lot of people.
I've got him at 11%, which is the fifth most. There's 5 golfers over 10% each, which is something we haven't seen in quite some time. So KH Lee checking in at 18%, Adam Scott at 13, Hideki surprisingly at 12 with Tom Kim, and then Terrell at 11. So I agree. I think kind of objectively in a vacuum, Terrell Hatton is the play. If you are chasing, you might want to get a little bit more contrarian. If you're front running, I think Terrell's fine. I cannot see a scenario in which I play KH Lee basically anywhere. Again, this is kind of a game theory situation. I just like that seem a popular KH Lee seems insane to me.
Yeah, that is an easy pass on me. So now where that leaves me is the true forgotten elite leverage play. Is that actually Jason Day?
So it's possible. Now his miscut at Quail Hollow, I don't think was that bad, right? There's good and there's bad miscuts. I don't think it was that bad, and there's a really good case to be made that he's the third best golfer in this field, and he's having a great season. I think Jason Day is an interesting option. I'm surprised. I was really hoping. See, I think Hideki, while he won't get my outright money, I think in the game theory scenarios where you are rewarded for being different than everybody else, I thought he would have been really interesting there, but it seems like people don't care. They're playing him.
Yeah. I mean, and really in a week like this, Rick, like, you're most likely a lot of people have all of these guys left at the top.
Correct.
Like a lot of people haven't rolled out KH Lee. I don't think a lot of people honestly have rolled out Hideki or even Tom Kim this year too. So is there any value on just more of a complete dart throw and getting into the Seamus Powers of the world, the JJ Spahns, the Taylor Montgomerys, Minwoo Lee? Like, I think if you have Hideki, Tom Kim, Hatton, that makes a fair amount of sense to me. But even if you want to roll out, I guess, a Kuchar or a Hoagie, how much worse are those guys? Probably a little bit, but that's just the nature of the field this week.
Tom Kim is like the safer Hideki, right? Like when healthy and when well, he's got the elite iron play. We've seen the putter get hot. We've seen him win a birdie fest or two. I will warm on Tom Kim as this thing goes on.
I think so too. I mean, I like Tom Kim. I like Tom Kim far more than I like KH Lee.
Yeah, I cannot imagine playing KH Lee at the -%.
Right, in every single market. So I think that's a decent option in one and done this week. But it's another one of those weeks where it's a Mexico Open-esque purse, not quite the elevated event. So, you're getting the elevated events with how they are. I mean, Xander finishing solo second is getting you more at an elevated event than the winner at this event, right? So, it's not a big one, but save your horses for Oakhill.
Okay, well, in our one and done last week, I had Victor Hovland, you had Cam Young. They both made the cut and did not even get us $100,000. So I got 69K, you got 44,600. So
awesome.
less than ideal for the boys. I have already used Tyrrell Hatton, believe it or not. I've used him at the match play, so I will take Jason Day.
I will take Tyrrell. Let's go with Tyrrell Hatton. I feel. If it's a Tyrrell Hatton Jason Day matchup, I feel pretty good about that.
Yes.
So hopefully, there's 8 more elevated events this season, allegedly, or I think it's 7. Well, 3 of them are the majors.
3 majors, 2 playoff events. That's 5. Travelers, Memorial, and something
one
else,
more.
Probably.
Yeah. So listen, if we can just start inching our way back. I've got some horses in the back for the couple elevated events that I've been waiting for. So hopefully we can get back on the right foot and Lord Tyrrell can get us going in the right direction.
All right, we shall see. We'll be back next week for a very special PGA Championship at Oak Hill. Very much looking forward to diving into that. We've already been talking about that golf course over the past couple of days, so we're locked and loaded to transition to the PGA Championship. But for now, follow Andy on Twitter. It's at ADP Live Sports, and you can find me at RickRunGood. This has been your betting preview for this week's AT&T Byron Nelson. Good luck.